Hello chess friends and welcome to you out of Chess channel and welcome to a spectacular game that I prepared for you today. It's Stockfish 15 against another top engine Eagle from the official CCR Chess.com website. And how to describe this game, I would really only describe it in two words. As the title says, it's really a poor hedgehog here. Eagle is the German word for a hedgehog, and here in this game it's almost like the Stockfish 15 engine took it personally against this other engine Eagle. Stockfish played here really in such a brutal way, and I've seen now many games and I've analyzed now many games here on my channel played by Stockfish 15, and we have seen really the positional brilliant games by the fish. We have seen also beautiful attacking games, but this is really pervert, this is really brutal what Stockfish did here from the beginning. Stockfish played really mortal tactical shots, played really a beautiful opening trap, so be prepared that this is really chess from another dimension. Put your seatbelts on and enjoy this game. This is really a one-way ticket game here played by the fish. So let's see now the game. It's the fish against the hedgehog. It's Stockfish versus Eagle in a beautiful open Catalan game. So here d4 was played by the fish. We have knight to f6, we have c4. After e6, knight to f3, we have the anti-Nimzo or counter Nimzo Indian setup. We're not allowing knight to c3, bishop to b4 idea, so that's why it's called the anti-Nimzo setup. So in the continuation we have d5. The game transposes now into Queen's Gambit decline structures, and now these days basically you're playing two choices. You're playing maybe the three knights variation, it's the most popular way, or you are going into Catalan structures with the move g3. I think the move knight to c3 is the more drawish line, is a more drawish opening. After move g3, bishop to g2, and you see and a potential maybe d takes c4. The pawn structure gets asymmetrical. First of all, the pawn structure gets imbalanced, the pawn structure gets really messed up, and many ideas can happen in an early stage of the game. So that's why I think if you're more dynamic player, if you're more an attacking player, then you would probably choose to play the Catalan instead of course the three knights variation. So here in the continuation we have now d takes c4, which is now the open defense here. Now the game becomes really dynamic because black took a pawn in hopes now to get something out of this 4 versus 2 pawn majority on the queen side. White on the other hand has now a dominant position in the center of the board. If white makes progress with the move e4, white could have of course a pawn central control, which is then restricting very important squares on the other side of the board, of course, in black's camp. So in the continuation, bishop to g2. Of course, the main strength of any Catalan opening is the bishop's activity on this long diagonal. We're trying now to play knight to e5, liberating now here the long diagonal for the light square bishop castling. As we said, maybe even occupy the center of the board if possible in the continuation. So we have now c6. The preparation of this move is to play something like b5, knight to d5, getting a compact position in the center of the board. And we have to say it, if you don't make out of anything out of your attack in the Catalan from white's perspective, then you will probably lose the game because black is up a pawn. If this game reaches the endgame stage without any beautiful attack that you can create, I think you lose the game. So that's why, as I said, if you're a dynamic player, you choose to play the Catalan in the beginning. So knight to e5 immediately here played by the fish, attacking now the pawn. b5 is of course not an opportunity because here also the pawn on c6 hanging. So that's why here bishop to b4, cutting off after bishop to d2 the connection between the queen and the queen and the pawn. So that's why we have here queen to d4. But now after bishop to b4, here Eagle also took out the knight on e5, and you see now Stockfish lost 2 pawns in the beginning, but Stockfish has a beautiful compensation. Stockfish has now first of all the bishop pair that's very dangerous on both of these diagonals, and notice now that black's king cannot castle anymore, cannot be secured by castling, so the king is a little bit stuck now in the center of the board. And I think when it comes to compensation, this is a beautiful compensation here from this point on. Pay good attention how Stockfish is not allowing here this other engine Eagle to breathe. Really from this point on the game becomes really a spectacular attack by the fish. So Stockfish plays a beautiful move knight to a3, and it's a provocative move. Basically many of us I think would be tempting here to take out the pawn on b2, but actually look at this, what happens if you play rook to b1. For instance, you escape with the queen. Look at this, the knight is coming into the game, you have to step back with the queen. Knight to d6 is coming, so you're getting several windmill tactics. You get also some attacks on this diagonal. You cannot get with the king on f8 or d7, you're getting in front of the bishop. If you get on d7 or d8, you're getting in front of the queen. Whatever you do basically is a disaster here for black. So this is not working. So far you cannot take the third pawn. So after move knight to a3, we have b5. Okay, this is a clear idea. We are protecting the pawn on c4. What black is also hoping to do is, as I said, play the move knight to d5, locking then the diagonal for the light square bishop, keeping the position in the center of the board really compact. But notice there is always this tempting tactical shot, knight to b5. So far it's not possible because the queen is protecting the b5 square, but in the near future this is the most important idea, most important tactical idea here for white. Knight takes b5, c takes b5, and then you see bishop takes a8. So you should not forget about it. If you're playing the Catalan many times, you get the opportunity maybe to play this beautiful tactic. So in the continuation, we have now bishop to d6, kicking away the queen. Queen takes b2. Now Stockfish got challenged. Now finally Igel took the pawn on b2, but now of course kingside castling. And again, let's stop with a little bit and evaluate the position. Stockfish lost 3 pawns, but has now really, I think, a beautiful compensation. The bishops are active. The queen, we have to say, it is also a little bit in danger here by black. Black needs at least several moves in order to escape with the queen. Still the king is endangered. The bishop is a little bit blocked out by its own pawn structure. The knight cannot come out. The rook is also passive. So this diagonal we have talked about is really dangerous. There are always threats of rook to b1, knight takes b5 and similar stuff. So many good things in white position. Of course white lost some pawns, but as I said, has at least some kind of a compensation. So knight to d5 here played by Igel. This is quite natural, locking now the diagonal, at least solving one positional problem now by black. So we have now e4, kick away the knight to c3, and now queen to h5. The queen is getting very active into the game, and here Igel played a very important move. In the beginning you don't know why is someone playing here h6, but h6 is very important. If you don't play that, then you get queen to g5, and queen to g5 is of course threatening queen to e7 checkmate. So if you play queen to g5, then f6, then you're weakening your long diagonal light course. So that's why h6 is preventing this idea. Very important move. But I've analyzed it home. I was really curious what happens if, for instance, black tries queen to d2. If black tries now to attack this bishop and is trying maybe to play something like queen to h6, trading off the queens, simplify the game, because I think the normal idea here for black is just simplification, trading off queens, going into an endgame, into a favorable endgame, because as I said also in the beginning, if white doesn't make anything out of this attack, then black is here simply a 4 versus 1 situation and will probably win in a potential endgame. So that's why white needs to be careful. But I was really curious what is going to happen after move queen to d2. Now rook to d1 is the beautiful opportunity, and again there are 2 choices you can of course take. Let's see, knight takes d1, rook takes d1. Now you play g6 as a counter attack against the queen. Now both queens are hanging, but now here queen to f3. Now you have to step back, and now look at this. This is now a monstrous tactic. As I said, never forget about this tactical shots in the Catalan, because after something like queen to b5, then you get queen to f6, and there's no good defense here against a potential checkmate on e7. The rook is hanging, so 2 messed up positions. So let's go back. After move knight takes b5, if you play c takes b5, if you're trying to protect your f6 square, it's not getting better, because e5 opens in the diagonal. You lose the rook, you lose probably one of these minor pieces. The activity of the rook on the d file is simply too much to handle. This is still a powerful bishop. The bishop, this other bishop, will come into the game, so it's simply game over. So let's go back. As we said, you cannot take out so far the rook on d1. What you could do is maybe trade off the queens. As I said, simplification, but queen to c5 would happen, and look at this, the queen is shifting over. Now you have to play something like, I don't know, knight to d1, but look at this, you don't have to even take out the knight. How powerful really this position is. You can play knight to b5, again this beautiful tactical motif, c takes b5, and now with queen to c8, black is even getting checkmate. Of course, you don't have to take here after knight to b5. You can maybe escape with knight to c3, but now it's not getting better. Knight to c7, you have to get with your king here on a weird square on d7. Now with bishop to e5, you're getting attacked here on dark squares again. It's simply game over. It's a lost position for black. So as I said, these two ideas are not working after move queen to d2. So that's why in this position h6 was played. So here here Igel tried, as I said, to prevent at least this queen to g5 idea. So as we said, queen to d2, I think we have solved now in this particular game. So here Stockfish plays e5 anyway. Again, the motif is clear, rook to b1 or something, and then knight to b5, liberating also this long diagonal for the light square bishop. So we have bishop to b7. Also an option would have been maybe the move bishop to d7. In my opinion, when I first analyzed the game, it seemed to me that maybe bishop to d7 seems more compact. At least you have one piece in front of the king, at least you are protecting somehow the king, but actually it's again not getting better. This is also a motif that is always present. The pawn on g7 is hanging. You have to play something like knight to a6, getting out of this mess. And look at this, now we're playing rook to b1 anyway. Knight takes b1, rook to b1, queen to d2, but now again knight to b5 with the preparation to play some ideas of bishop to a3, knight to d6 is now an opportunity. For instance, if you play h5, we can play queen to e4. Look at this, still you cannot take out the knight. You can maybe play rook to d8. This is really just a pervert Stockfish line that I've analyzed at home. Nothing of this I think I could analyze by myself. I would really get a headache if I would start to calculate everything what was present in this particular position. But this is really how Stockfish calculates this kind of stuff. Look at this, now you get knight to a3. You can also take out the pawn on c4. Look at this, you can play c3. Nothing basically can be played. As I said, bishop to a3, knight to d6 is going to happen, and I think the game is lost. So as I said, many opportunities. Bishop to b7 was played instead of bishop to d7, but it's not getting better because again the same motif, rook to b1, sacrificing simply the rook. If you play now, of course, let's see, knight to b1, then again rook to b1, you have to step back, and again a rook to b5, you can maybe play one check, but again you get rook to b1. If you take, of course, here in this particular position, then you have this one, bishop to b7, and you lose the rook, and it's of course a much better continuation. You can play maybe one check, but king to g2, escape, and now we take out the rook. The knight is hanging here, the king is still endangered. Again, a completely lost game for black. So as I said, too many tactical shots. After move rook to b1, here this other engine Igel tried to escape, again tried to simplify the game by trading off the queens, but now Stockfish plays queen, bishop to f3, attacking now the queen. We have queen to d3, and now again this beautiful motif, knight takes b5. We have c takes b5, bishop to b7, we have knight takes b1, and now queen to g4, attacking simply now the g7 weakness. Now there's nothing so much that can be done. In the continuation, we have now knight to d7, at least escaping with the knight, but now after bishop to a8, here Stockfish finally grabbed the piece. So if you play instead of this move knight to d7, I've also was curious what would happen if, for instance, black tries to push the pawn on c3. It seemed really tempting to me, c3, c2, c1, but actually this is also, as we said, a threat. Queen to g7, the rook is hanging, you cannot push the pawn further because you simply lose also the rook here on h8, or if you play on f8, it's also a beautiful checkmate. So that's why, as I said, knight to d7, at least the queen is staying there, because now if you play queen to g7, then of course queen to h7 can come into the defense. So that's why it's a little bit different here in this position. But okay, after move knight to d7, as we said, bishop to a8 was played by Stockfish 15, knight to c3, retreating now with the knight, queen to g7 anyway, and again this motif, queen to h7, trying to simplify the game by trading off the queens, which is a normal idea, I think, here for Eagle. But now Stockfish plays a beautiful move, plays queen to g4, waits now Eagle to play with the queen on f5, and here Stockfish is saying, okay, now I will trade off the queen, because after e takes f5, now you have a messed up pawn structure. It's not the same if Stockfish would have taken the queen here on h7. If Stockfish would have traded off the queens without messing up the pawn structure, then it's a different story, because as I said, if you don't get out of this attack in a good way, then you have to still face this 3 versus 1 situation. And that's the beauty about the Stockfish calculations. Stockfish messed up the pawn structure, is now getting with the bishops back into the game and is trying now to finally grab at least many of the pawns here on the queen side. If that doesn't happen, then of course black should be winning. So really wild and immortal game here played by the Fish. So Stockfish plays bishop to b4, attacking now the knight to e4, bishop to c6 now, and now mission accomplished, because now basically you cannot protect the pawn on b5. If you play a6 to protect the pawn on b5, then you get rook to d1. The rook is coming into the game, and there's no defense. The knight is pinned. You cannot include the rook into the game. And look at this, the knight cannot also come on f6 in order to defend the knight on d7. This pawn on e5 is really a messed up pawn. It's also controlling very important square. So pretty beautiful tactics spread all over the board. So in the continuation, after bishop to c6, you see here a5 was played by Eagle. We have bishop to a5, king to e7, and now after move f4, Stockfish simply cemented also now the pawn on e5. If you would have played maybe here bishop to b5, then it's risky. You see, black also can take out this pawn, and I'm not sure about this position anymore. For instance, the engine at home gives you equal chances now for both sides. Still, this pawn on c4 is annoying, so very important move. First f4, protecting now the pawn and still attacking now also the weakness on b5. So we have here now rook to c8, attacking now the bishop to b5. We have c3. Here Eagle pushes the pawn further, rook to d1, attacking now the knight, and now knight to c5, rook to c1, attacking now also the pawn on c3, rook to b8, and now bishop to f1, simply retreating now and hoping to finally grab this pawn and create a passer here on the a file. So we have now knight to a4. So here Eagle is trying to hang on to this pawn. This is now the main strength in black position, the only way to make something out of this position if you try to push it further and maybe make a potential promotion. But Stockfish plays a3, and now knight to d2, attacking simply the bishop on f1. But now a beautiful move, first bishop to b4, and we have reached now, I think, the critical moment of the game, because Eagle sacrificed the rook for the exchange, but actually there's not so much that can be done. Basically, it's very hard for us in the beginning to see what is going on here. But after king to e6, for instance, you go with the king here, you are trying to get, of course, your king towards the center of the board. You get bishop to e2, and now, for instance, black is trying to protect the pawn on c3. We still have this opportunity every time bishop to b5, attacking the knight. You have to, if you play, of course, c6, c7, pardon me, c2, then of course your knight is lost. If you play something like knight to b6, then we can take out first, of course, the pawn on c3. So eventually this pawn is lost, and it's a messed up position. So that's why rook takes b4. We have a takes b4, knight to b3, rook to c2 here played by Stockfish. We have knight to d4, bishop to d3. So now Eagle gets the pawn, gets the exchange back, but after bishop to c2, we have reached now an endgame in which we have equal material on the queen side, but of course Stockfish has here this extra pawn on the king side, and of course also notice that also the pawn on f5 is saying, so this should be a now completely winning game here for white. So here knight to b6, we have b5 pushing the pawn further, knight to d5, we have king to f2 getting the king closer. We have now bishop knight to b4, attacking now the bishop on c2, and now bishop to f5, and after c2 bishop takes c2, knight to c2. Stockfish sacrificed the bishop. It had to be played, but Stockfish has now 5 pawns versus 2 pawns, and here the knight is a little bit misplaced. The knight is a little bit too far away from the action. In the continuation, we have b6, so the king gets deflected, but now the king can march, of course, towards the king side and can grab all of this pawn. So in this position, actually, Eagle even resigned. So what's the point? Let's see a little bit the potential continuation. Knight to d4, we're getting the king to f6. We just grab this one. Now we just push the pawns and let this pawns rolling e6, f5, h4, g5, whatever happens. In one particular moment, I think you'll get at least 3 pass pawns, and the knight is simply helpless against this kind of a pawn store. So really brutal game from the beginning. You see how dangerous the Catalan can be. Many times Stockfish could have even sacrificed the rook for the exchange, could have sacrificed the whole rook. We have seen in the beginning Stockfish sacrificed 3 pawns just in order to have a beautiful piece activity. A really stunning game by the Fish, and I really enjoyed it. And I'm glad that I covered the Catalan game, because several times you have requested now here in some comments that I should do more Catalan, because you're probably trying to play it yourself. You're trying to get more dynamics games with the d4. In the continuation, we will do probably a series about the open Catalan, closed Catalan, about common opening traps in the Catalan, also with some different ideas, different opportunities. But so far I think we should cover this brutal top engine games, because in this game, for instance, we have seen I think at least 10-15 traps by Stockfish that Stockfish prepared here in this beautiful opening. So in my opinion, really beautiful game worth to study. So okay, I hope that you enjoyed the game. I really enjoyed it a lot. Interesting ideas of the Catalan for sure. If you want to see more about the Catalan, more about some games that we have analyzed, here's our playlist of this beautiful opening. And if you want to see more brutal Stockfish 15 and some other top engine games, here's also our link of our Comments and Chess Games Played by Computer series. And if you like this content, don't forget to subscribe to my channel. See you soon with some more videos, and what to say, chess is the best, of course.